Our fourth most voted, loved or hated sitcom is Miranda, which originally aired on BBC One for 3 seasons between 2009 and 2015. At its height in 2013, it was pulling in nearly 10 million viewers, beating almost everything else on TV. The debate here is largely about taste and style. Do you find it's old-fashioned, fourth wall breaking slapstick, charmingly nostalgic, or completely grating? Written by and starring Miranda Hart, Miranda is unapologetically traditional. It embraces the energy of a studio audience, broad physical slapstick, direct looks to camera and a simple, joyful silliness. Although for modern comedy fans it can feel like a throwback to an older style of farce. Miranda deliberately adopts a traditional sitcom style, complete with a studio audience and laugh track. That approach appeals to viewers who enjoy classic comedy, but it also sets the show apart from the more naturalistic single-camera sitcoms that have dominated in recent years, such as The Office and Fleabag. For critics, a laugh track can feel intrusive and suggest a less subtle form of comedy. Although she's in her mid-30s, Miranda struggles with many of the expectations associated with adult life. She is clumsy, socially awkward, often mistaken for a man due to her height, and often feels out of step with the world around her. Her journey is ultimately about building confidence and deciding what adulthood means on her own terms, rather than living by social conventions or her mother's expectations. Many viewers, particularly women who have felt awkward, tall or outside traditional ideas of femininity, find Miranda's struggles with confidence, social situations and love deeply relatable. They see aspects of their own anxieties in her and take comfort in that recognition. Others, however, feel the characterisations and situations are pushed so far that they become caricatured and lose their realism. The show leans heavily on broad physical humour, awkward encounters and embarrassing situations. For some viewers, this cringe-based humour is a major part of its appeal and a genuine source of laughter. For others, the discomfort is too intense, making the comedy feel more painful than funny. Fans see this as an affectionate throwback to classic British comedy in the tradition of acts like Morecambe and Wise, finding it warm, funny and endearing. Detractors, however, view it as childish, overstated and unsophisticated, with the awkwardness tipping into comedy that feels more embarrassing than amusing. Miranda frequently talks direct to the audience, often sharing her thoughts, making asides or acknowledging the comedic nature of situations. This fosters a strong connection with viewers for those who enjoy feeling like her chums and being let in on her inner world. However, some find this device to be jarring, manipulative or even an indication of lazy writing, preferring a more naturalistic approach to sitcoms. Miranda Hart openly credits Eric Morecambe as a major inspiration for her looks to camera and self-aware comedic style, except of course he was in a sketch comedy show, not a sitcom, where breaking the fourth wall was just another joke. For people who enjoy that style, the Morecambe and Wise link makes perfect sense. It puts Miranda firmly in that old school British comedy tradition. Miranda is unashamedly childish. She loves playing with fruit friends, a collection of fruit and vegetables with faces, making silly noises and galloping. A significant arc is about her accepting that these parts of her are not flaws but integral to her identity. Fans find this innocent, joyful and a celebration of not taking life too seriously, particularly for those who don't fit societal norms. Critics, on the other hand, might see this as immature, grating or an unwillingness for the character to truly grow up. Despite the exaggerated situations, many viewers connected with Miranda's insecurities, her awkwardness and desire to be accepted for who she is. That feeling of, oh no, I've been that person, is a huge part of why Miranda struck a chord. Her mother, Penny, is forever trying to push Miranda towards more respectable life, while over at the shop it's often Stevie who seems to be keeping the whole thing afloat. Penny is a force of nature, posh, overbearing and obsessed with Miranda getting married. This creates tension between them and drives some of the show's funniest moments. Penny is relentless in attempting to match Miranda up with various unsuitable men. Her iconic "such fun" and "what I call whatever" became hugely popular catchphrases. Despite the constant nagging and embarrassment, it's clear there's deep love between them, which often surfaces in moments of vulnerability. If Miranda is all chaos and impulse, Stevie is usually the one trying to hold things together. They have a competitive but deeply supportive friendship, often engaging in "what have you done today" dance-offs, a reference to Heather Small, the vocalist with M People. Stevie is often the one to pick Miranda up after a fall, literally and metaphorically. But Stevie isn't just there to prop Miranda up. She has her own ambitions, her own love life and her own frustrations too. At the centre of the romance plot is Gary Preston in a classic will they won't they setup. He's the chef restaurateur next door. Miranda has a massive crush on him and there's clear mutual attraction. But Miranda's crippling social awkwardness and her tendency to self-sabotage often prevent anything serious from happening. The show returns to that relationship right through the series and into the specials. One of the more interesting observations is the comparison with male comics, because Miranda is doing something women in mainstream sitcoms haven't always been allowed to do: be the clown. She throws herself into broad, physical comedy but still keeps the character warm and human. If people dislike it, it's often less about Miranda as a character and more about the kind of sitcom this is. Miranda's humour is warm, accessible and largely free of darkness, which leads some critics to contrast it with the sharper, more morally complex comedy often associated with male-led sitcoms, as well as with contemporary shows such as Fleabag. From that point of view, her comedy can look safer, broader and less subtle. Part of the backlash is really about form. This is an old-school studio sitcom in an era that started valuing something cooler, quieter and more naturalistic. Overall, these comparisons place Miranda Hart within a long tradition of British physical comedy, while also showing how deliberately her work stands apart from more modern, often male-dominated comic trends. By the finale, Miranda and Gary's relationship finally has to be faced head-on, and Miranda has to work out what actually matters to her, Gary or her independence. Not everyone stayed on board. For some viewers, the later episodes felt more repetitive, and for them the ending didn't quite ring true. So while the fourth wall breaks and Gary chat-ups are indeed iconic, Miranda is much more a nuanced sitcom exploring a woman's struggle with self-image, family expectations and the path to genuine happiness, all wrapped up in a package of physical comedy and infectious silliness. Did you love Miranda's veggie pals, or was she just embarrassing? Let me know in the comments.